This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so this project-oriented course, so before that, let me introduce myself. Myself, Raviraj. I have more than 13 plus years of total Pega experience, and I'm a certified lead system architect, and I did multiple certifications in Pega as well, apart from it. And I'm a certified Scrum Master as well. All right, I'm a certified Java developer as well. All right. So I was teaching since last 5 years with some other with tie-up with the other institutes, and this is the first time which I have started from myself. All right. So let's this project-oriented course. What it is basically is like so everyone is Telugu here, or like anyone who doesn't know Telugu?
Myself Telugu only, Ravi.
Anyone who doesn't know Telugu?
Yes, Telugu only.
Okay, fine. So if everyone is Telugu, I will in between I will go in Telugu also. Well. Okay, so basically I'm going to explain one of the project called warranty claims processing. So how do we process the claims in case if it could be a warranty of the products or it could be the process of the healthcare as well. Okay, so we can interlink this warranty claim processing application with any kind of a claims. It could be healthcare or it could be some other application as well. Okay, and apart from that, I will go with one more project, could be a healthcare or banking. So that, so basically the main intention of going through these projects is whatever we keep in the resume, we should able to answer the questions. So any kind of any project that we are keeping in the resume, it could be the first or it could be the second project. We need to have a basic and at least understanding of what that project is, and at least you should able to answer the case management. What is your class structure? What is your case types involved in this? And what are the stages that are involved in it? Okay, so the most of them, the biggest mistake that people are doing is like the people are copying the some other project which is some person who is doing the real time, so they are copying it but they're not aware of what it is. So the majorly like we need to focus on the stages, what we have to tell in the interviews. So in this particular whatever application what we are keeping in the resume, we should able to tell the case types, the class groups, so whatever the organization, the application layer cake, so how many different type of applications that we are building. So that means there is a definitely there should be an organization layer, on top of it the framework, on top of it the implementation. So we should have that clear cut understanding of how many layers that we are keeping in our project. And definitely they focus on, are there any Pega frameworks used? So Pega is also providing certain frameworks. So if we say that we have used it, we should know about it. So most of the cases we it's better to say that I'm not aware of any Pega framework, so we haven't utilized any Pega frameworks. So we can go with the only the application that we are developing, not the one which Pega provides it, because we are not aware of what the framework it is. Okay, so that way we will go with. And next is the interview questions. So every area that we are going through, so we are whatever the a project that I'm going to explain, so in that we are what kind of interview questions that comes in. So we are going to focus on all the different type of questions, whatever the scenarios that can be coming in. So those type of questions we are going to discuss in it. And there are certain scenario based questions that I'm going to bring it. So while I explain the project itself, so that what kind of scenarios that they can ask in terms of the project, so how do we need to answer it, and what are the do's and don'ts of the resume. So whatever we keep it in starting from the Pega version onwards, so what is the things that we are keeping it. So we need to be clear on what is if you are keeping something in Pega 8, which is so whatever which if you're saying like I worked in Pega 7 version, so the components like schedulers or queue processor, if you're saying something in 7.2 which is not existing, so such kind of mistakes we should avoid it, because those are not existing in 7.2 version, but your application is running in 7.2. Okay, so such kind of mistakes we should not do it. Okay, so whatever the things that we are explaining, so better if you are well aware of 8.3, keep 8.3 or 8.4 or 8.5. And the things that they ask it, so keep very much like limited things, like if they are asking about the schedulers, so you should say like I didn't worked on schedulers in my application. Okay, if it is you are keeping 7.2 version. Okay, so such kind of things we need to avoid it. All right, so such kind of things also I'm going to discuss, and whatever we are keeping the version of Pega, which we are using it, and what is the things that we are taking into the consideration while we are creating the application. Okay, so those things we will be focusing on. So vast application warranty claims processing, I will be focusing on Pega 7 version, and healthcare application or banking application will be focusing on Pega 8 version, so that you will understand what is that we have used it, what is not used in. And Scrum methodology. So one day will be I will be discussing about in general what are the activities that we do as part of the Scrum. Okay, so that it helps us while we are get into the project. So what are the things that we have to do it? So how the activities will go on daily basis, and in general, managerial questions will come in with respect to the Scrum methodology itself. So what are the how many members are there? What are who are there? Okay, so such kind of questions are coming in the managerial interviews, so that will focus on Scrum as well. Okay, so some people they, because managers nowadays, most of them the second level of interview whoever doing it, so they are Scrum masters, they are doing it, so they are little bit they are asking about the Scrum. Okay, so what are the things that you do it, and how do you manage your application? So such kind of things, those are also discussed as part of the managerial questions. Okay, so that is the reason Scrum methodology is also being part of it. And any other new questions that you are facing in the interviews, that you can bring it, which I didn't cover in these sessions. Okay, and both online and offline is also available. Offline is at Manikonda. Okay, so in case if it is not available during the weekdays, you can come during weekends, during Saturdays. All right, and the total sessions will be 30 sessions, so probably like it may go for around 1.5 month, since we are saying 30 sessions. Okay, and let's go for before that. So before going to the terminologies, I would like to focus first of all on the infra part. Okay, so we need to be like clear on some of the infrastructure, how Pega is maintaining in the background, because some of the questions are coming in straight away from the production side. How do you handle it? Okay, so some of the infrastructure related questions are also coming in. Okay, so especially people who are keeping 3+ also, so they are also getting such kind of questions. So little bit knowledge on your infrastructure, how the Pega infrastructure it is. So I will focus from there. I hope you are good, right? Anything before I start? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Ravi, like I have one doubt, like what are the prerequisition for this actually? It's a normal bigger type of training, or like it's what makes the
No,
difference
no, no. It is
from the
not a
regular
Pega
training?
start, not a beginner level of training. If you are a
Okay,
beginner, okay, it's very difficult to you to catch the things. Okay, so it is kind
okay,
of a next level of training. Whoever already completed the first level of basic modules. So let's
okay,
say if you're not aware of any basic knowledge, it will be
okay,
very difficult to you to catch the things. Okay, so it's kind
okay,
of people who are preparing for the interviews and already who are placed inside the project, but they are not aware
okay.
of some of the things. Okay, so for them it will benefit a lot. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
mostly
Thank.
interview point of view. Okay, so yeah, so let's say there is an operator ID. So you may be knowing about this operator ID as like a beginner level of course, but I will be discussing on what the class of that operator ID. So where exactly these operator IDs will be stored in backend. Okay,
Okay,
and how the deployments, how whenever we do the deployment, how does this operator ID should be taken care. Okay, so this level of things that we will discuss as part of this training. All right,
okay,
now. Yeah, so let's go for the infrastructure point of view. Like, so whenever we have the Pega platform installed, okay, not generally in the personal edition, let's assume this is our enterprise edition, which is in our general Pega applications created in a client side. So in general, if you see, so whatever the you see, these are the same things that will be available in the enterprise edition as well. But you see there is a Tomcat that we have used it, but in general the enterprise will use JBoss or WebLogic. Okay, so those kind of servers they may utilize in the production. Okay, so mostly like if you are telling the answers like, oh, we have used the Tomcat because Tomcat is a small personal edition. So in general, personal edition with personal edition it will come in, but in general, if you are saying in the production, so you may say that we have used the JBoss or WebLogic. Okay, so there is nothing difference in the server level configurations they will ask in the interviews, but in general for the production side we will use those kind of servers. Okay, so since it is supporting for all the different type of servers, so you have to say that JBoss or WebLogic in your application is being used. Okay, and inside this Tomcat you have the database configuration. So whenever the Pega platform is installed, so it requires the database. So how whatever the things that we are seeing in the Pega developer studio, so those are something which is stored in the backend, and that backend system is our database. So it supports all the different type of databases, Postgres, SQL, or MySQL or Oracle, okay, or DB2. So any kind of a databases that you can say. Okay, so nowadays even Postgres is also being used in most of the applications. So there's nothing wrong in saying Postgres, but you need to know where exactly you will configure this configuration. Okay, so in your server you need to specify the database level settings as well. So which is your under the Tomcat you will see the configuration, and here there is something called as, let me see the context.xml. Okay, so if you see the context.xml inside the configuration folder, so you can see here the database credentials. Okay, so whenever we are trying to connect to the database, so this context.xml is the file where we are going to place the configuration related to the database. So whatever the database it is it a data db2 or Postgres or whatever the database that it is, so we need to have that host and the database credentials to log into that. Okay, so here you can see the database. In order to connect to the database, so this is the credentials that is used. Okay, so for this, in order to connect to this Postgres, the database which is installed in our personal edition, we just need to have some understanding on how Pega schemas are built in. Okay, so schema is nothing but a package where you are keeping all your tables in it. Okay, so how the Pega schema will work in, so we just need to have some basic understanding for that. So for that, we will just connect to the Postgres database. So we just need to install pg admin software to see the Postgres database tables. Okay, so once we install this Postgres pg admin, so you can open it, so you can see these details. Okay, so in order to connect to the database, so these details will help us to connect to the database. Okay, so we have this two schemas, one is a rule schema and one is the data schema. Okay, I will show you what the schema is and in our pg admin software. So let's go to the, so this context.xml is the file where you will have the configuration related to the database. So remember the file name, because sometimes they will ask you where exactly you will configure your database details. Okay, so context.xml is the file where we have all the database related details. All right, and now let's go for PRPC personal edition, and here you will see this PGSQL. Okay, so this will have all the SQL related files. Okay, under this we have this PG admin 4. So under this we have a PG admin 4. So you just open this and you have the bin folder, and here we have the PG admin 4. Okay, so by double clicking on it, if you have this software installed, you can see this. Okay, so now this is connected to our Postgres database software. Okay, now in order to connect to the server, whatever the PRPC personal edition that we installed in our local, so in order to see that, so you need to connect to the server. Okay, so here let's connect first. All right, so I already have few of the servers, so let's add a new server. So I have connected it, but in case if you are adding for the first time, you just go to create and add the server, and here you just name the thing like Pega 8.6 personal edition. So you can name whatever it is, okay? And going to the connection tab, here we need to specify the details that you see in the context.xml file. Okay, so in the context.xml, whatever I have shown you, these details will help us to connect to the database. So let's connect by using this host, which is a local host, and 5432 is the default port number for this Postgres database. Whereas if you are having the Oracle or DB2, it may have a different port numbers. So port numbers is allocated for the specific to the database. Okay, so now I am connecting the local host. The port number is 5432, and the username and password, whatever we have in this context.xml, we need to specify this. So Postgres, and the Postgres is the password. Okay, so using this credentials, I can connect. Okay, so once you connect to this, you can see the server name. So this is the database server that is that you can see here. So inside this databases, so you have the schemas. Okay, so schema is nothing but a package where we will place our data tables. Okay, so here you will see there is something called as a rule schema and a data schema. So forget about the public in SQLJ, focus only on these two schemas, rules and data. So in Pega, everything that we create is a rule. Okay, and those rules will go inside by default into this rule schema. So anything that we do, the development as part of the creation of the rules, so definitely every rule will be part of a rule set and a version, and each and every rules in the background, it will be having a table associated. So by default, this is the schema where you have the tables associated for those rules that we are creating it. Okay, and now if you go inside this rule schema, so there are certain tables where you see pr4 underscore rule is the name of the table where all the rules will be placed. So remember the very frequently which are being used in the project, and we need to remember those tables only. I'm just focusing on. Okay, no need to remember all of them. Okay, because sometimes they may ask you certain tables, what is the table which where we will save the rules as well. So this is the table which is responsible to store the rules. So remember, pr4 underscore rule will have all the rules that we create. So this is the one which it maintains. Okay, so sometimes even if you doesn't know it, you will open that particular rule. Okay, and then you will see which table it is pointed to. So how do you see that? So you will go to your designer studio. So if you are focusing on a one particular rule type, let's say if I want to see the section rule. Okay, so section rules, whatever the section rules I am creating, it may not require, but just for awareness, like how do we know that which table is associated, whatever the section rules are created. So the section rule, you can click on the definition of it, and here you can click on the test connection where you see the table name which is mapped to this class. So this table rule HTML section. So whatever the sections that are created, so that will be part of it. Okay. So here you can see pr4 underscore rule underscore section where it is coming under the schema rules. So under this schema, we have this table. Okay. So in this way, we can identify certain rules. So majorly, the problem comes is whenever there is a corruption happens. Okay. So there is some rule which sometimes gets corrupted automatically. Okay, so due to some kind of things that we do it, so some rules may be corrupted, and what happens today, the rule is opening, tomorrow it may not open that rule. So what is that you do it now? Okay, so that rule is corrupted completely. Now you cannot open it, you cannot do anything. Okay, so so in that scenario, we need to connect from the database and you need to delete it, that particular record. Okay, so here we can use this, okay, table, okay, where exactly this is getting stored. So to identify which rule is being saved in which particular table, you will see that particular rule by using the app explorer. So this is an app explorer where you can find out the classes and go and select the test connection so that you can identify the table, and then you will come back to your database software and you will try to delete it. Okay, so just remember few of the tables. One is pr4 underscore rule. All right. And remaining things is not required. in the as part of rule schema, this is the one which we need to know. Okay. Okay, now coming to the cache ones. Okay, so sometimes they may ask you certain cache. So there is a rule cache which I want to delete it. So how do I do this in Pega? Okay, so there are certain cache related tables that we need to delete it. Okay, so the records of the cached records which are captured as part of system application cache entry. So these records, these entries which are kept in this table, I can straight away delete it so that the cache related issues will be resolved. Okay, so in general this will happen during the upgrades. Okay, so when we are trying to upgrade from one system to another system, that means Pega 7 to Pega 8 version, or Pega 8.2 version to Pega 8.4 version. So whenever we are migrating from one version to another version, only at those stages, only at that time, we will go and delete the entries of the cache table. Okay, so these are some of the tables, like system app cache is one, system cache entry is one. Okay, so these are some of the tables which relates to the cache table. Okay, sometimes the production support team will ask you, so send me the tables which I want to delete it. So for those things you need to specify these cache tables. Okay, so cache entry and this system app cache entry. Okay, so these are some of the cache related, but very rarely will come in picture, but you just need to know that there are certain tables where the rules will also be cached. Okay, so that for the faster performance that will helps us. All right, and whenever we are installing some software, some installation which is happening. Okay, so as of now we are having the Pega installation. Similarly, you may have other frameworks which we will install it. So here prpc underscore install underscore log table will have the installation related files in it. So if you can go to this, select the script, so you will see them, whatever the installations files which we are adding to it. So you can see over here. Okay, so Pega personal edition which we have installed, and in addition there is a help system settings and prpc distribution. So everything that we import whenever we are installing in our Pega, so by default these are the jar files which are coming in. Okay, so it helps us to understand whether we have successfully installed or not. Okay, so this prpc underscore install log. Okay, so majorly we will go for the data schema. Okay, so rule schema we won't go much, only pr4 underscore rule. If in case there is a some rule gets corrupted, then only you will come for the rule schema. But majorly whatever the things that we do as part of application development, whatever the cases that we create, so all the tables will be available in our data schema itself. Okay, so any data types that we have introduced, okay, as part of our development, so you are going to use this data schema. And here in this data schema you have the tables. So where is it? It's going to have whenever whatever the data classes, whatever the data classes that you are creating and adding a certain keys to it, so automatically there is a table which it creates. So those tables will come by default inside the data schema. Okay, so data schema will have all the different type of data related stuff. Okay, so let's say the operator IDs that we are creating. Okay, so by default that will be part of our data schema itself. Okay, so you just need to remember few of them, like pc underscore assign underscore work list, where the assignments that we have. So what is an assignment? Assignment is a action whatever that is assigned to a particular operator. So that is something we call it as assign underscore work list. Okay, so that those entries where the assignments are assigned to a particular user, so those entries will be coming inside pc underscore assign underscore work list. So this is the table which is associated where we have the assign dash work list class. Okay, so any assignment that we have it, so those assignments that is specifically assigned to a user, so that will be coming inside the table pc underscore assign underscore work list. So remember this table which is used for assignments, and pc underscore assign underscore work basket, so this table is being used for the work queues. Okay, so whenever we are assigning an assignment to a work queue, or we can say work basket as well. Okay, so whenever we are assigning to a work queue or a work basket, then you will see those entries inside this table. All right. So remember these two tables, and then coming to the operator IDs. So where it will store these operators IDs are PR underscore. Okay, so let me see for that one later. PR underscore other anyway. So this PR underscore other, like sometimes the question is like this way. So I did a data table created. Okay, I created a data type, and I didn't configure the keys. Okay, now where I can see the data type records will be in it. Okay, so by default, if you are not configuring the record keys, okay, so it is pointed to PR underscore other table. Okay, so if you have created a data type and you haven't configured the keys for it, okay, you haven't selected any primary key for that. So now by default, if you're not configuring any key, then that will be associated to a table called PR underscore other. Okay, so PR underscore other is the default table coming from Pega. If in case we haven't configured any keys, so this is the table where you will see the entries. All right, and now I got the PR underscore operators. So any operator that we create, so every operator ID is stored inside this class, this table called PR underscore operators. Okay, so any new operator, if I want to see from the backend, so you will query this table PR underscore operators. All right, so in this way, few of the tables which we need to remember is, one is PR underscore other, PR underscore operators, and there is very important called sys underscore logs. Okay, so logs are basically like whenever you are running, so if there are two users parallelly working on the same case, okay, so one case which I am working, the same case is being worked by second person as well. So what happens, the case which I am working, it will be locked by myself. Okay, so I am working, so the case is assigned to be only. So you will see this sys underscore logs table whenever there is a locking happening. So in order to release it, okay, so then you will see this PR underscore sys logs. Okay, if in case forcefully we need to release that log, you need to delete the record entry from this sys underscore logs. Okay, but this is the table where you will see the whenever any person who is working upon, so that log will be assigned to that person. So that person, he is being assigned to that case, so the log is also on his name itself. So that is something you will see under the table PR underscore sys logs. All right, and some of the debugging things where you do for the SLAs. Okay, so by default, like if you are having certain default entries, okay, so whenever the SLA is being configured, so SLA is service level agreement, where the goal, deadline, and past deadline we will configure for an assignment. Okay, if in case you have configured it, so the queue where you can see the items is PR underscore sys underscore queues. Okay, so where you will see any assignment which is being configured with an SLA. Let me see here. Okay, so here we have certain default entries which are already available. System queue default entry. Okay, that means whenever we have the assignment which is configured with the SLA, by default it will be pushed to a queue, and that queue is the one which is this table PR underscore sys underscore queues. So this table is responsible to maintain the any SLA which is configured for an assignment. So by default, those entries will coming inside this PR underscore sys queues. From here, the entry which is eligible to have that goal or past deadline or deadline, so it will take by the agent and then they will process it. Okay, so we just need to know that there is a queue which is being associated with this table. All right, so that's you need to know about it. And Yeah, and one more question related to the attachments they are asking about. So they basically like attachments whenever we are working on the work attachments. So there is something called as PC underscore link underscore attachment. So this is the table. So whenever we are having an attachment, okay, so then those attachments will have is being stored in a separate table. Okay, so this attachment I will talk later, but this is a table which is having the linking of the attachment between a case, as well as there is another table where exactly the content of the attachment which we uploaded. So this is just a mediator table. Okay, so PC underscore link underscore attachment is the mediator table where you are going to have the actual data where exactly it is stored and the case which where exactly it is referred to. So those two things you will see under this table. Let me run one script for this. Okay, so here you will see something called as px linked ref from px linked ref to. Okay, so in general what happens here is this is the mediator table. Okay, so first table is your cases. So whenever you are creating a case, so there is a pzdins key in that case. Okay, so the pzdins key is the unique identity for any case that we are creating. Okay, and px linked ref from is the one where exactly the case id which we are which where we are associating this particular case id, and the px linked ref to is the pzdins key of the second table where you are linking, where you are having the attachment. Okay, so this pc underscore link attachment is the mediator table between a table where you are assigning a case and the table where you are having the actual content. Okay, I will go in detail this one later. This is not the right time. So as of now, I believe these are the major things that we need to focus on. And let's go further rules whatever we created. So in general the hierarchy we need to know. Okay, so whatever the different type of what are the different type of classes that are available. So in general the major focus is on all right. So here, so in general whenever we are creating any rule, okay, so by default the super class of in pega is at the rate base class. So any rules or any work or any data that we have, so anything it should be coming by default inherited from the at the rate base class. So at the rate base class is a super class for all the classes, and here either the major categories of the things that we do is one is the cases. So any case that we create by default this is belongs to the work dash. Okay, so work dash is the highest category of the work that we are creating. Any case that we are creating, it should be coming as the hierarchy of work dash. Okay, so work dash is the categorization. Okay, and let's go for the second one, which is a data dash. So anything related to the data types that we created, okay, so those will be inherited by default from the data dash as the highest superclass for the data category. Okay, and anything any rule that we create, okay, the section rules or activity rules, anything that we create by default those are coming under the category of rule dash. Okay, so this is the highest level of rule category. Okay, that means the if you are creating any rule which is associated to a rule set version, then it should be belonging to the rule dash. Okay, so in the similar way if you are creating any data type, if you are using any data type, then in that case it should belongs to the data dash class. And if you are creating any case related things, so it should belongs to the work dash related things. Okay, and for all these different hierarchy of classes, the base class will be the common one. Of course, we do have few other classes, highest like index dash class for the index related things, like we have the declare indexes that we create. So for those things, we have the index dash classes. Okay, but these are the major things that we need to know about it. Okay, so at the rate base class is a super class for any class, and these three are parallel to the each other. Okay, so work dash is parallel to data dash, and data dash is parallel to rule dash. Okay, so these three are the major things in Pega that we are creating. So we will create the cases. So whatever the users in the user portal that we create a case, a record of information that we create, so that belongs to the work dash. Okay, and any kind of a data types that we have it, any records that we create inside a data type class, so those will come under the data dash, and any rules that we create by default will go to the rule set versions. So those are something we will store inside the rule dash classes. Okay, so by default, once you are aware of the rule set management, once you are configuring a rule with a rule set version, by default this will be taken care. But we need to know about the data dash. So whenever we are done with the work, when we are doing the deployment, when we are moving our code to the one environment to another environment, then we need to take care of these data dash related aspects. Okay, so data dash is basically like I see the operator ID. So let's start with this operator ID. So this is a data instance. Okay, so wherever you see there is no association of rule set version, so those will be the data instances. Okay, so any operator ID, so you won't see the rule set version. So there is no, it's not mandatory to associate even the rule set as well. Okay, so rule set is also optional for an operator ID. So you will see only the operator ID does not have any version associated. So wherever you see the version is not displaying on the header, you can say that this is a data instance. Okay, so operator ID is a data instance. Okay, and you need to know about the class which that operator ID belongs to. Okay, so by default, the operator ID belongs to the class data dash admin dash operator dash ID. So you need to remember few of the classes. Okay, so very frequently used ones. Okay, so operator ID is one such thing where we will very frequently being used is being used in the projects. So the class that operator ID belongs to, so any operator ID you want to fetch it, so you will see under the class data dash admin dash operator dash ID. Okay, so this is the default class. Sometimes in the interviews they may ask the classes as well. Okay, so whatever the data instances that we need to take care while we do the deployment, so what all the data instances, can you name few of the data classes that you know? Okay, so one such thing is data dash admin dash operator dash ID. Okay, so very important, we need to specify because very much we will use the operator ID any application you go with. So by default the operator ID, because the Pega is the BPM platform where you will engage different set of users with the different set of responsibilities for them. Okay, so Pega is a platform where you engage all the different set of actors to work together to complete our business workflow. All right, so that is the, so basically the Pega BPM platform is meant for engaging different set of actors. So actor is nothing but the operator ID. So here we need to be know about this operator ID class which it belongs to. All right, and the majorly the operator ID whenever they ask, so once you log in you are getting the application. So how you are getting? By using the access group. So you need to know that operator ID is having the configuration of an access group. Okay, so this is mandatory thing. Okay, so whenever we are answering the questions, we need to focus on the key areas in that particular rule form. Okay, you doesn't need to know everything about the work security, all those things. You need to focus only on the area which that particular rule form is mandatory to have it. Okay, so here the access group is the major thing. So you have to specify the application access for this operator ID via access group. Okay, now if I open the access group, so definitely this is also a data data instance. Okay, why? Because there is no version associated for the access group. Okay, now access group belongs to the class data dash admin dash operator access group. Let me cross check once. Okay, so data dash admin dash operator dash access group. Okay, so in case you want to see whatever the access groups that are available in the system, you can even search and select this particular class. From here as well, you will see the list of access groups. So in order to find the list of access groups, this is one way. If you know the class, you will go this way, or you will fetch it from the records explorer. For that, you need to know which category that belongs to. Okay, so in general, the access groups comes under this security category. Okay, so under this, if you expand the security category, so these are called as a rule category. Okay, so you need to know at least a few of the basic rule types comes under which category. Okay, so sometimes I see nowadays, like while we are doing the support as well, if I say like can you open the access group rule once, go to the records explorer, so they won't say you like which category it belongs to. So if you are expanding something like application definition, so it's like you haven't worked at all. Okay, so for that reason you are searching for where exactly the access group is. So you need to be aware of at least the basic very frequently being used. Okay, so access group will be coming inside the security category. Similarly, if I ask you to open the section rule, so definitely you need to know that user interface category the section rule belongs to. Activity, technical category. Okay, so in this way, at least the basic ones like flow action, operator IDs, access groups, activities, decision. Okay, so anything like decision table, decision when rule, so you will see by default comes under the decision category. Okay, property rules, by default comes under the data model category. Okay, so some of the things which are very much used like data transforms, data properties. Okay, so those things if you need to know about it. Okay, so that it eases to directly go and open that particular rule via records explorer. Okay, so you can search for that particular rule name by going to this filters. Okay, so sometimes you can use the sorting option. So sorting by default, wherever you see these kind of grids, if you click on that particular option, by default it will do the sorting. Okay, the one which is recently created, if I want to do the, if I they will ask you to do sorting once, do the sorting once, but where you will click on, is it like on this particular name you will do sorting? No, the updated on. Okay, so recently I created, so you will just click on this so that the one which is created recently you will see at the top. All right, so in this way you can use these options. Okay, and if in case the filter option is required, you will use the filter option, or if in case the sorting is required, you will just click on that label above. Okay, so these are the basic things. Like if in case you need to find out the rule via records explorer, you will go with this way. Okay, if in case you know the classes, you will directly go to the app explorer and search for it and just click on it, so that you will see the instances will open in a tab. Okay, so this access group is basically a data instance that belongs to the class data admin operator access group. All right, and here the majorly what the focus we need to be for the access group is the application name and the version and the portals that we are providing, and there is something called as a roles. Okay, so very important these roles are. Okay, so whenever there is a particular operator, whoever logs in, they be whatever the whatever the role which is given to him, so that is something we can restrict it by using these roles. Okay, so we'll explain about the roles, because there are multiple questions coming in these roles aspects. Okay, so we'll focus on that later. But in the access group, you have this option to configure the access roles. Okay, so sometimes they ask you, how do you restrict your application? Okay, with this particular operator ID you may need to restrict it. So how do you do this? So I will have that access role configured in my access group, so that in that access roles I have that privileges set over there. Okay, so in the access role you will do the setting, but here you in the access group you will set the access role objects. Okay, so these are called as access roles that you will configure it. Okay, these access roles are responsible to make the restriction of this application that we are accessing. Okay, so the application that we are accessing, we can add the restriction by using these roles. All right, and the portals are basically used for usage. So the users, what kind of work they are doing it, so they have to use the portal. Okay, so if in case we as a developer, we definitely go with a developer studio. Okay, and if in case as a user, whoever logs in, they should have the py case manager or key py case worker portal. That is the end user portals. Okay, so the portal where we are working, so those are called as a developer portals. So where app studio is one such portal, developer studio, as well as admin studio. So these are the ones which as a developer we will use it, whereas you will have the end user portals where the actual cases creation part will takes place. Okay, so those are called as the end user portals, which even we create our own portals with the something like this one. Okay, so this is something like a portal which we have for our application, we have created it. Okay, so portal is again another rule. Okay, but you need to focus on the only on the ones where what is the major thing that you have in the access group. Okay, so some of the basic questions will be starting something like what is the purpose of an access group. Okay, so the basic purpose of the access group is to configure an application which we need to point by the operator who logs in, whoever associated with this access group. Okay, and we also provide the portal access, so that which portal has to be given for the user, and we also switch to the other portals that are specified in it. Okay, so we have the option to switch portal. So how do I switch to the other portals? This is the question. Okay, how do I switch the portals? So how do you switch? So once you configure in your access group, by default, you will see the option of switch portal option in your case manager. Okay, so once you will navigate your application, so there you can see by default, you will see that option of switching to the other portal. Okay, so only configuration that you do is in your access group. Okay, so on your access group, if you do it, that automatically takes you to switch options provided at the user portal. All right, so Pega will take care in the background. So once you configure that in your access group, so let's assume there is one question like, if as an operator I logged in, I want to work in two different applications. Okay, now how do I do that? So you need to specify the operator ID should have all the different access groups with respect to those applications which I am working. Okay, so in your operator, you will add all the access groups, whatever the application that you want to access it. Okay, so if you have those access groups listed, then you have the option to switch to those applications automatically. Okay, so if you have other access groups added, you will see them over here, so that you can switch your application to the other application and you can work accordingly. All right, so this way we can add the access groups. Let's say there is another question like, I am working in one application, and if I have a operator ID where I'm working as a manager and I work as a user as well. Okay, so how do I do this? So this is something like, you need to configure two different access groups, one with a specific to the manager role configured in the access group. So application remains the same, only the roles will change. Okay, so here this role you will configure one with respect to the manager, one with respect to the user. So you will specify the roles in that access group. Okay, and you will create two access groups, and both these access group will be pointing to the same application. Okay, and those access groups you will specify on the operator ID. So that way you have to specify, like, you need to create two different access groups, one with respect to the manager access role, one with respect to the user access role. Okay, so then automatically you can switch to that application and you can work as per your role. All right, I hope you are clear so far.
Yes, Ravi.
All right, now let's go to this work tab of the operator ID. So here by default, you see there is an option called as work queues. Okay, now what is a work queue? Work queue is basically whenever we have an assignment created, by default, we will push it into a queue, and that queue is your work queue. Okay, or sometimes we call it as a work basket. So sometimes people who are working in Pega 7 version or Pega 6 versions, whoever worked in Pega 6 version, they use it to call it as a work basket. Okay, because earlier we used it to have the name as work basket. So the question will come as like work basket also. Okay, but don't get confused, both are same. Work queue and work basket both are same. All right. So in case I need to configure certain work baskets to an operator ID who logs in. So I need to see whatever the work queues that are I'm accessible to. So those work queues you have to specify on your operator ID. Okay, so for every operator you need to configure these work queues. Okay, so whatever the work queues which the user can work on it, so those things we need to specify here. Okay, so are you aware of get next work in Pega? Okay, let me tell you. So if in case if I have a portal launched, let's go to the dashboard. Okay, so you see there is something called as a get next work. Okay, so this get next work is something like you are going to get the most eligible assignment that you have to work with the priority. Okay, so this is something like Pega inbuilt capability to fetch and get you the work which you have to do it. I will tell you in Telugu. Okay, సో ఏదైనా సరే మనకి అసైన్మెంట్స్ ఆల్రెడీ మనకు ఉన్నట్లయితే సో ఆ అసైన్మెంట్స్ లో ఏది ముందుగా చేయాలో ఆ పనిని మనకి గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ అనేది ఏం చేస్తుందంటే ఒకసారి మీరు క్లిక్ చేసిన వెంటనే మీకు ఏది ఇప్పుడు ఇమీడియట్ గా చేయాల్సిన పని ఏంటి, ఏ అసైన్మెంట్ మీరు ముందుగా కంప్లీట్ చేయాలో అది మనకి తీసుకొచ్చి ఇస్తుంది. సో ఇది ఆటోమేటికల్ గా ఇంటెలిజెంట్ రౌటింగ్ జరుగుతుంది ఇంటర్నల్ గా పెగాలో. ఓకే, సో ఆ ఇంటెలిజెంట్ రౌటింగ్ అనేది ఈ గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ లో అనేది ఆటోమేటికల్ గా సెట్ అయి ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, సో మీరు గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ క్లిక్ చేస్తే ఆటోమేటికల్ గా మీకున్న వర్క్ క్యూస్ లో కానీ వర్క్ అసైన్మెంట్స్ లో కానీ అంటే మీకు ఇచ్చిన మై వర్క్ మీ అంటే ఆల్రెడీ మనం చేస్తున్న వర్క్ లో కానీ ఏది ప్రయారిటీ అసైన్మెంట్ ఉందో అది మనకు తీసుకొచ్చి మనకు చూపిస్తుంది అనమాట. ఓకే, ఇది ఇది మీరు చేయాల్సిన నెక్స్ట్ పని. ఓకే, సో మనకి ఇన్ జనరల్ గా ఒక ఆపరేటర్ తో లాగిన్ అయ్యామంటే మనం ఇష్టం వచ్చినట్టు మనం పుల్ చేసుకోకూడదు. ఓకే, సో గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ ని మనం జనరల్ గా యూజ్ చేసి వాటిలోంచే ఏ అసైన్మెంట్ ని వర్క్ చేయాలో మనం యాక్చువల్ గా ఆ యూజర్ కి ఇస్తాం అన్నమాట. ఓకే, సో బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా సపోజ్ కొన్ని ఆల్రెడీ వర్క్ క్యూస్ నాకు యాక్సెస్ ఉంది. ఓకే, నేను ఏం చేస్తానంటే డైరెక్ట్ గా వర్క్ క్యూ ఓపెన్ చేస్తాను. ఓకే, ఈ పలానా వర్క్ క్యూలో ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఓకే, నాకు ఇష్టం వచ్చిన వాటిని నేను సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకొని నేను ఫస్ట్ ఇది కంప్లీట్ చేస్తాను. సో వాడు రీసెంట్ గా పడవచ్చు. ఓకే, ఆ అసైన్మెంట్ అనేది ఈ క్యూలో ఇప్పుడే పడి ఉండొచ్చు. ఓకే, వేరాజ్ కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ ఆల్రెడీ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ అయి ఉండొచ్చు. ఓకే, సో ఒక 10-15 డేస్ బ్యాక్ కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ క్రియేట్ అయి ఉంటాయి. ఈ రోజే ఒక అసైన్మెంట్ క్రియేట్ అయి ఉంటుంది. సో మనం జనరల్ గా వర్క్ క్యూస్ అనేది అసైన్ అయ్యి ఉన్నట్లయితే మనం కనుక పిక్ చేసినట్లయితే వి విల్ పిక్ యాజ్ ఇఫ్ లైక్ ఐ వాంట్ దిస్, ఐ విల్ వర్క్ ఆన్ ఇట్. ఓకే, సో అంచేత మనకి జనరల్ గా వర్క్ క్యూస్ ఉన్నాయి అంటే మనకి ఎప్పుడు కూడా డైరెక్ట్ గా యాక్సెస్ యూజర్స్ కి ఇవ్వరు. ఓకే, సో ఎప్పుడు కూడా గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ త్రూనే ఆ వర్క్ అనేది పిక్ అవుతుంది, అసైన్మెంట్ అనేది పిక్ అయ్యి మనకి రౌట్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే, సో ఇప్పుడు నేను గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ క్లిక్ చేశానంటే సపోజ్ నా దగ్గర ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ వర్క్ లో ఉన్నాయి అంటే నేను చేయాల్సిన పని ఆల్రెడీ ఉంది. సో నేను ఆల్రెడీ చేయాల్సిన వర్క్ ముందు తీసుకొని ఆ తర్వాత వర్క్ క్యూ లోంచి తెచ్చుకుంటాం. ఓకే, సో వర్క్ క్యూ అనేది ఏంటి, డిఫాల్ట్ గా ఒక వర్క్ బాస్కెట్. ఓకే, సో ఇందులో సపరేట్ గా ఎవరైనా అసైన్మెంట్స్ కనుక పుష్ చేసి ఇందులో ఉంచితే సో వీటిలోంచి నేను పుల్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. వేరాజ్ ఒకవేళ ఆల్రెడీ నా దగ్గర కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఇవి నేను ఆల్రెడీ వర్క్ చేస్తున్నా ప్రెసెంట్. ఓకే, సో వీటిలోంచి నేను ఆల్రెడీ పుల్ చేసుకోవాల్సి వస్తే అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, సో ఐ విల్ ఆటోమేటికలీ పిక్ ఎనీ ఆఫ్ దీస్ ఐటమ్స్ బికాస్ దిస్ ఇస్ దేర్ ఇన్ మై వర్క్ లిస్ట్ ఆల్రెడీ. ఓకే, సో ఆల్రెడీ నా దగ్గర ఉన్నాయి, ఇవన్నీ నాకే అసైన్ అయినాయి కాబట్టి సో నేను ఎట్లయినా ఏ టైంలో అయినా సరే పుల్ చేసుకొని చేసుకోవచ్చు వీటి నుంచి. బట్ వర్క్ క్యూలో డైరెక్ట్ గా పుల్ చేసుకోకూడదు. ఏం చేతంటే వర్క్ క్యూలో మనం పుల్ చేయడం మొదలు పెడితే బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా మనకి తెలియదు ఏది ఫస్ట్ పడింది అనేది. ఓకే, సో బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా మనం ఏదో ఒక పుల్ చేసేస్తాం. ఓకే, సో అందుకనే సిస్టమ్ ఇంటెలిజెంట్ రౌటింగ్ ఏం చేస్తుంది అంటే గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్ క్లిక్ చేసిన వెంటనే మోస్ట్ ఎలిజిబుల్ అసైన్మెంట్ ఐ విల్ గెట్ ఇట్. ఓకే, సో మోస్ట్ ఎలిజిబుల్ అసైన్మెంట్ దట్ ఐ నీడ్ టు వర్క్ యాజ్ అ ఆపరేటర్, సో ఐ విల్ గెట్ ఆటోమేటికలీ. సో దట్ విల్ బి డన్ బై ద గెట్ నెక్స్ట్ వర్క్. సో దీన్ని కస్టమైజేషన్ చేయడానికి కొన్ని ఆప్షన్స్ మనకి ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాయి ఆల్రెడీ. ఓకే, సపోజ్ మనకి అసైన్మెంట్లు ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని ఉన్నాయి. అసైన్మెంట్ అంటే నాకు అసైన్ అయినవి ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని ఉన్నాయి విచ్ ఐ విల్ సీ అండర్ ద మై వర్క్ లిస్ట్. ఓకే, సో మై వర్క్ లిస్ట్ లో ఆల్రెడీ కొన్ని అసైన్మెంట్స్ నాకు అసైన్ అయినవి యూ కెన్ సీ ఓవర్ హియర్. ఓకే, బట్ ఇవి కాకుండా నేను ఫస్ట్ ప్రయారిటీ సపోజ్ ఇది ఈ ఆప్షన్ ఎనేబుల్ చేశాను అనుకోండి, గెట్ ఫ్రమ్ వర్క్ క్యూస్ ఫస్ట్ అని. సో అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందంటే, సో ద అసైన్మెంట్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ దేర్ ఇన్ ద వర్క్ క్యూ will be given the first priority, and then this will be given the second priority. Okay, so priority will be given to the work queue first, which I will be listing down over here. Okay, so suppose I'm specifying certain work queues over here, then the work queues will be given the first priority while I use this get next option. Okay, so in general, the real-time scenario applications, if in case we are having the work queue, okay, then by default we will use the get next option to pick the item from the whatever which is most eligible to work upon by the user who logged in. All right, so that is the benefit of it. In case you have this option of merge work queues or use all work queue assignments in user teams. Okay, so basically you can have multiple work queues that you have it. Okay, so if in case you use this option, by default whatever the work queues which are there in the application configured, so all the work queues are eligible to get it. Okay, but in case you want to specify the specific work queues that can be given for this particular operator, so you will go with this option. You won't check this option. Okay, so you have to specify the work queues that this particular operator can assign with. Okay, so in general every operator will have a access to the work queue as well. Okay, so if they have an access to this work queue, then only they can pull the assignment and they can work by them. Okay, so I hope you understand this point. Okay, so get next work is basically used to pull the assignment from the work list or the work basket based on the priority. Okay, so if the assignment is pushed to the work list sometime later, okay, and the one which is recently coming in, if you are pulling that particular item, that is something not doing a proper customer service. Okay, so how to have a proper customer service done, we need to pick by the order which it is placed. Okay, so the priority should be given based on the date when it was placed inside a work queue. All right, so that is something taken care by the Pega get next work. Sometimes some questions are coming in with respect to the get next work as well, where you need to customize it. Okay, so that I will tell you later. All right, so with that, let's move to this application also. Okay, so here in this application rule, you need to know about the rule sets. So whatever the rules that we create, so we need to access the rule sets in order to create the rules. Okay, so any rule that we create, it should be specified in which rule set I need to keep it. Okay, so if in case you have the framework and implementation specific applications, so in general, you need to choose which rule set I need to create. Okay, so it depends on the class that we use it. Okay, so this by default, if you see, this is a framework class group created by default when we are creating a new application. So any application that we create, by default you will have a class group. Okay, so the name of the default class is called as a class group. Okay, so very important to know the terminologies. The reason why I'm telling in English is because you need to focus on the terminology while we answer the questions. Okay, because so many people, even though they say the answer correctly, but they are losing it, the terminology. So with the mistake that they're doing is the terminology they are using in a wrong way, so that leads to the direction of that person is not is a fake. Okay, so because they, even though they answer the question, since they are not using the proper terminology, that leads that this person is not genuine. Okay, so for that reason we need to be telling the answer as like a in the way the terminology it is. Okay, and I will be pausing the session for now. So before I close the session, I just want to tell about the frequently asked questions which I'm going to share as part of this course as well. So these questions will help us to answer the questions in the terminology that we need to use it. Okay, so even though the concept that we explain, if in case we are explaining in Telugu, okay, so then these videos will help us to on how to answer the question in English and with the terminology that we need to use it. Okay, so very important to use the terminology as well, because that itself states that whether you are genuine or a fake. Sorry. Okay, so here, okay, I will discuss about this application rule later on, next session. Okay, so the sessions will be conducting from Monday onwards between 7 to 8 in the morning session. Okay, uh, yeah, and as part of this, like we will be driving all the end-to-end modules, so all the modules will be covered as part of it. So how in general the real-time applications, what are the interview questions could be asked, and what are the mistakes that usually people are doing nowadays. Okay, so those things will be focused on, and what are the key areas that we need to focus on. Okay, so those things we will be discussing as part of these sessions, and if you have any questions, any doubts, you can bring it to me so that I can discuss that in the class. Okay,